Under the impeccable shine of the First Bank of Manhattan, a man accustomed to power and control sees his perfect routine interrupted. An unexpected visitor leaves behind an object forgotten by time, and with it, secrets capable of shaking an entire legacy. The immense entrance hall of the First Bank of Manhattan gleamed as usual on that autumn morning. The Italian marble reflected the light coming through the high windows, creating an almost sacred atmosphere for those who managed the city's capital. Adrian Cole adjusted his navy blue tie as he passed through the revolving doors, receiving respectful greetings from the security guards. "Good morning, Mr. Cole." Adrian responded with an almost imperceptible nod, as he did every day. At 42, he was the youngest vice president in the bank's history. The Cole surname had opened doors in Manhattan for 3 generations, ever since his grandfather, Robert Cole, founded the bank with 2 other investors. His father, William, expanded the business during the golden years of Wall Street. Now it was his turn. The wristwatch read 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes before his first meeting. Adrian liked this precision. His entire life was meticulously timed, from the 30-minute run at 5:30 a.m. to the last email checked at 11 p.m. Efficiency was his mantra. People wasted time. He did not. "Coffee, sir?" asked Janet, his assistant for 8 years. "The usual," he replied without taking his eyes off the numbers on his screen. The day was proceeding normally until Adrian noticed an unusual commotion in the main hall. Frowning, he watched through the glass walls of his office. A man in a worn-out coat, carrying a tattered backpack, had entered the lobby and seemed to be calmly observing the surroundings. "Janet, what's happening down there?" His assistant followed his gaze. "It seems to be just a homeless person, sir. Probably came in to get warm." Adrian felt the muscle in his jaw tense. "Call security." While Janet dialed, Adrian descended the stairs. The bank's entrance hall was not a public shelter. There were rules, standards. The image of the bank depended on it. When he reached the ground floor, he saw the man standing near one of the marble pillars. He looked about 60 years old, with well-trimmed gray hair despite his worn clothes. There was something in his posture that didn't match the typical image of a homeless person, a certain dignity, a calm look that seemed to assess the environment not with admiration, but with a strange recognition. 2 security guards were approaching when Adrian intercepted them. "I'll handle this." Adrian walked up to the man, maintaining a calculated distance. "Sir, may I help you?" His voice was formal, controlled. The man turned slowly. His eyes, a deep brown, met Adrian's without any sign of intimidation. "Just observing. It's a beautiful building," he replied with a surprisingly articulate voice. "It has changed a lot since the last time I was here. This is a private establishment. If you have no business here, I'll have to ask you to leave." A slight smile appeared on the man's lips. "Of course, I understand. I just thought I might see how things were. Old Robert would have liked the changes." Adrian felt something strange in the pit of his stomach. "How do you know that name?" "People know more than you think, Mr. Cole," replied the man, adjusting his backpack on his shoulder. "I apologize for the inconvenience. I'm on my way out." Something in the way he pronounced Cole made Adrian uncomfortable. The man started to walk towards the exit but stopped briefly at the reception desk. With a discreet motion, he left something on the polished surface before continuing his way out. Adrian, his eyes fixed on the man's back as he walked away, approached the desk. There, where seconds before there had only been the immaculate marble surface, now rested a small metallic object. An old bronze key with engraved initials. R.C. Robert Cole. 15 minutes later, Adrian had canceled his first meeting and was locked in his office, the old key on his desk. The piece looked decades old, with signs of use and an intricate design on the top. The initials R.C. were slightly worn but still visible. His grandfather's key. A key that should have been in the family vault, along with other personal items after his death, 28 years ago. "Janet, I need you to find out who that man was." "Yes, sir. Should I call security to review the recordings?" No, not yet. I want discretion. As Janet was leaving, Adrian picked up his personal phone. He hesitated for a few seconds before making the call. Mom, I need to ask you something. Elizabeth Cole, at 73 years old, retained the elegance and sharpness that had characterized her throughout her life as William Cole's wife. Her voice sounded gentle but alert. Adrian, you never call at this hour. The family safe, our grandpa's belongings still all there. A brief silence. I suppose so. Why the question? His key, the key with his initials. Another silence, longer this time. Adrian, what's going on? Please just answer. Elizabeth's voice trembled slightly. Your grandfather's key disappeared a long time ago. Your father. He never managed to find it after the funeral. Why are you asking about it now? Adrian felt a shiver run up his spine. I'm going to visit her tonight. In the luxurious Upper East Side apartment where he had grown up, Adrian found his mother sitting in her favorite armchair, with a photo album in her lap. Elizabeth seemed to have aged 5 years in the hours since the phone call. You scared me, son. Is everything all right? Adrian took the key out of his pocket and placed it on the coffee table. Elizabeth turned pale. Where did you find this? A man came into the bank today, a homeless man. He left this on the counter. Elizabeth's hands trembled as she picked up the key. After all these years, her voice was almost a whisper. How was he? The question caught Adrian by surprise. Do you know who he is? Didn't you recognize Malcolm? The name meant nothing to Adrian, but his mother's tone suggested it should. Malcolm Turner, Elizabeth continued, seeing the confusion on her son's face. He worked for your grandfather for almost 20 years. He was his personal assistant, his driver, his friend. Adrian frowned. I've never heard of him. Elizabeth closed her eyes for a moment. Your father insisted on it. After Robert died, William. Well, he had different ideas about how things should be. She flipped through a few pages of the album until she found what she was looking for. A photograph where a younger Robert Cole smiled alongside a distinguished black man, both in front of what appeared to be the original entrance of the bank. This is Malcolm. He knew more about your grandfather's business than any of the directors. Robert trusted him completely. Adrian studied the photograph, recognizing in the younger face the same man he had met that morning, now aged by time and hardships. What happened to him? Your father fired him a week after the funeral. He said he no longer needed his services. Malcolm tried to contact me a few times, but she hesitated. William intercepted the calls, the letters. He thought Malcolm had too much influence over your grandfather. Adrian was processing the information slowly. And the key, what does it open? Elizabeth touched the engraved initials with her fingertips. Robert had a private vault in the old bank basement. Not the official vault, but a space he kept for personal documents. William searched for the key for months after his death. He was obsessive, actually. What was in this vault? I'm not sure. Your father believed they were documents about the original founding of the bank. Maybe some agreements not officially recorded. She paused. But your grandfather once told me that he kept his true legacy there. Adrian stared at the key, now with new questions arising. Why would Malcolm appear now? Why give me the key? I don't know, but I know that Malcolm loved your grandfather as if he were a brother. If he kept this key all these years and decided to hand it over now, there must be a reason. The next morning, Adrian arrived at the bank before dawn. The old blueprints of the building, retrieved from the archives, showed an access to the basement that had been closed during the 1998 renovation. The space now formed part of the dead file storage, rarely visited. With the key in his pocket, he descended to the building's lowest level. The corridor was lit only by emergency lights, casting shadows among the shelves of old documents. At the end of the corridor, an apparently solid wall blocked the way. Adrian examined the surface carefully. Behind a movable file, he found a small disguised door, almost imperceptible. The lock was rusty, but after a few attempts the key turned with a muffled click. The door opened to a small office. The air was dusty, untouched for decades. A simple desk, a few chairs, and a large wall-embedded safe were the only furniture. The same key opened the safe. Inside, Adrian found organized folders, documents yellowed with age, and a carved wooden box. On top of the box, an envelope with his name written by hand. Adrian felt a lump in his throat. The handwriting was familiar, the same as the birthday cards he had received in his childhood, from a grandfather who had died when he was only 14 years old. With trembling hands, he opened the envelope and began to read. For my grandson Adrian, if you are reading this, it means that Malcolm has finally found you. I instructed him to deliver this key only when the time was right. Malcolm always had a gift for knowing when people were ready for certain truths. What you will find in this room is the true foundation of the coal bank. Not the legal papers or contracts, but the human story behind it. When I started this bank in 1951, Manhattan was not the place it is today. A black man like Malcolm could barely get in through the front door of establishments like this. But it was Malcolm who saved my life during the war, and it was Malcolm who lent me his lifetime savings when no one believed in my dream. In the official papers, the bank had 3 founders. In reality, it had 4. Malcolm chose to remain in the shadows. The times are not ready, he would say. But his investment, his wisdom, and his tireless work were as important as any other. The documents in this room prove that 1/4 of the bank always belonged to Malcolm Turner, although it was officially in my name. The box contains the evidence and the legal means to correct this injustice. Your father discovered part of this story shortly before my death and strongly opposed it, not out of malice, but out of fear. Fear that the family legacy would be stained, as he said. That's why I hid this evidence and entrusted the key to Malcolm. Adrian, you have always been different. Since you were a child, you've seen beyond appearances. I hope the man you have become still carries this ability to see the true value of people, regardless of their clothes, color, or status. Do what is right. With love, your grandfather, Robert. Adrian reread the letter 3 times, each word resonating in his mind. He opened the wooden box, finding legal documents, disguised property certificates, and an old diary. Flipping through the diary, he saw records of the friendship between Robert and Malcolm, from the war to the last days of his grandfather. Among the pages, he found photographs. Malcolm and Robert building the bank. Malcolm at important meetings, always discreetly in the background. Malcolm holding Adrian as a baby, with a proud smile that he had never seen on his own father. The last page of the diary contained a recent note, in a different handwriting. Mr. Adrian Cole, if you are reading this, it means you finally recognized me, even if only for an instant. I have kept this key for almost 3 decades, waiting for the right moment. Your grandfather always said that you would know what to do when the time came. I will be at the same shelter where I've spent the last 5 years, at 43rd and 9th. I do not seek revenge or fortune, only the truth for Robert. Malcolm Turner. That very afternoon, Adrian called for his driver. Where to, sir? The chauffeur asked, surprised by the change in routine. West side of the city, 43rd and 9th. The shelter was a simple building run by a local church. Adrian, still in his impeccable suit, seemed out of place among the people coming and going. At the reception, a middle-aged woman observed him with curiosity. May I help you? I'm looking for Malcolm Turner. The woman studied him for a moment. Mr. Turner is in the garden out back. He spends a lot of time there, tending to the plants. Adrian followed the hallway until he found a small green area, where an elderly man, now wearing clean but simple clothes, was carefully pruning a rose bush. Mr. Turner, Malcolm turned slowly, unsurprised. Adrian Cole, you look a lot like your grandfather. Adrian felt an unexpected emotion hearing that. No one had ever compared him to his grandfather. They always said he was the image of his father. I read the letter. I saw the documents. Malcolm nodded, placing his gardening tools aside. And what do you intend to do? Why wait so long? Adrian asked. Why not seek lawyers? Those documents. You could have claimed your share years ago. Malcolm smiled serenely. It wasn't the right time, Robert knew that. It wasn't just about the money or the shares. It was about recognition, about truth, and some truths can only be heard when we are ready for them. Adrian recalled how he treated Malcolm that morning at the bank. The coldness, the automatic disdain. Then he thought of his father, who spent his whole life hiding the truth about the family's bank origins. "I called the police," Adrian finally said. Malcolm stiffened for a moment. "To arrest me for trespassing?" "No," Adrian shook his head. "To file a report. Someone broke into the bank and gave me documents proving a historical fraud against one of the original founders. It's the first step in the legal restitution process." Malcolm's eyes filled with restrained tears. "Your grandfather said you would be different, that you would see beyond the Cole name." Adrian extended his hand to the older man. "I would like you to come with me to the bank tomorrow, Mr. Turner. There's a meeting room named after my grandfather. I think it's time to rename it Cole Turner Room." Malcolm accepted the extended hand, and Adrian felt the weight of decades in that simple touch. "The garden here is beautiful," Adrian observed, looking around. "But I think the bank's rooftop garden needs someone who understands roses." As they walked side by side out of the shelter, Adrian realized that, for the first time in years, he wasn't checking his watch. Some things, after all, were more important than time.